Okay, well, so I posted on a chat that this would be a fairly short session. I'm in a hotel lobby right now. I'm at a conference in Miami. It's a rather interesting subject that they're talking about right now. We're talking a lot about a lot of the political orientations of both faculty and students, as well as universities, and the things that happen, being that we are generally in a more liberal environment, and some of the conservatives that feel that that is not right, want to say things and feel that they don't get an opportunity to. And then also some of the liberals that don't like what the conservatives have to say, or what the alt-right or people on the right have to say, and how they disrupt them, particularly from being able to express ideas. Um, it's kind of interesting because when you start listening to what people have to say, they start talking through both sides of their mouth at the same time. But well, that's just the way it is. Anyway, so uh, I wanted to just go over some of the other things that relate to local initiatives as far as the area of energy is concerned. So in chapter 11, we're talking about energy. Next week, chapter 12, we'll be talking about, let me check this. Oh, okay. Well, I've turned the volume all the way up. Hopefully it doesn't start screeching. Um, if you can let me know if you can hear me now. I should do this another way probably. So, okay. So things are, hopefully the audio is working. I just look kind of strange sitting here talking to my computer in a corner of a hotel lobby as people are walking by. Miami is a rather interesting place. Um, it's kind of as what you would imagine it to be. But I did want to talk about the aspects of the energy chapter in chapter 11, particularly as they relate to Hawaii. So I put up the Clean Energy Initiative here, and I'm going to try to scroll through some other areas. There are a couple of other things that I had shared with you on the announcement in Canvas. So here, as you notice, it says in the title that Hawaii is the most fossil fuel dependent state in the nation. Clearly, that has effects upon our environment, and that also have obvious effects on climate change. So if you take a look at this one, there is a PDF attached to it, Transforming Power in Paradise, the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative. As you're all well aware of it, it says that this can be explained in large part on our dependence on tourism and the military. There's a dangerous scenario for the future because of the finite nature of fossil fuel and the fact that the state is more and more vulnerable to fluctuations in oil prices and availability. I watch a lot of business news, so one of the things that I constantly see is a ticker or a bug on the side of the screen that constantly posts changes to the price of oil on a minute by minute basis. It's one of the more well traded commodities, obviously, on the planet. So, how the price of oil fluctuates has a lot to do with our economy. But also, as you see there, it says the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative is leading the way in uh, re-enlivening our, relieving our dependence on oil and setting goals to achieve 100% clean energy by 2045. Um, as you can see, this is a tremendous reach that the state has uh, brought itself uh, to making as we take a look at how are we going to be able to do this. Now, I don't know if hopefully it switched as far as the article is concerned, but in the background now, this is an article from Scientific America, and the title of it is As Hawaii Aims for 100% Renewable Energy, Other States Watching Closely. Clearly, somebody has to lead the way, and in this respect, Hawaii has taken the initiative of doing that. Now, people don't always want to jump on the boat immediately. They want to see how others fare, how others do it. And perhaps that's a good thing in a way if the leader actually takes advantage of that situation and acknowledges the kinds of practices that are necessary for something to occur. In this case, 100% renewable energy. Uh, there are things, however, that are happening that are impeding our progress towards 100% renewable energy. And many of them are limitations because of the geographic scope and the geography of Hawaii. Others are political and cultural. These are things that we have to recognize as being part of the situation, and they cannot just be marginalized or made secondary to this objective of being energy efficient and having 100% renewable energy. There are things to consider, and that might impede the process that we have. Other places on the mainland will be watching this from also not just the economic and the scientific, but the cultural and the environmental and the geological perspectives that Hawaii brings as kind of like a microcosm of a lot of different areas across the planet. I do also want to show you this. This was when the governor signed the bill. Notice that it was in 2015. Sets a very ambitious 30-year horizon. Now, for some of you, you might be thinking 30 years is a long time, but think about it from the perspective of the economy. Think about it from a political perspective. A lot of times, the law and things related to the law, you have to acknowledge the reality that it moves more in geological time than in real time or in current time. It's like the whole movement of the glacier. It takes a long, long time to make a tremendous impact, to carve out large swaths of earth, to make real interesting kinds of features. They're not done overnight, and this is the kind of thing that also is something that we'll see in this area, fortunately or unfortunately. One of the things that we say is the law should be stable, but should never stand still. So, stability, however, does require, in many instances, a very slow progress, and things do not happen as fast as we would like them to. And sometimes, maybe now in this day and age, as fast as we need them to. But this is something that, again, we do have to take a look at. Notice though the legislation was House Bill 623. This was back in 2015. If you want to go back and read the original text, this is something that perhaps you may want to or be interested in doing. Of course, you may also just be interested in having the semester end and have this class finish as quickly as possible. But I would commend some of you, if not all of you, to looking at the House bill and see how uh, it kind of progressed. You can take a look for the history of the bill to see when it was introduced, how many committees it had to go through, things related to the public hearings, and that is something that, uh, oh, okay. So I'm getting feedback saying that some people's signal is cut out. I'll record this and hopefully be able to put it down as a link again to a YouTube video that will be available in Canvas for our class. For those of you who had the uh, the transmission cut off, um, I just have a few more things. So in this article, clearly it says Hawaii far from 100% renewables, but running ahead of schedule, state funds. So it's interesting that again the perspective here, Hawaii far from 100% renewables. But remember, it's a 30-year time frame, so running ahead of schedule is a good thing. It means that the adoption and adaptation to this particular law has been moving along quite well. And it shows that there are entities that are trying to accelerate the process so that we have a better chance of achieving a goal and of protecting the environment and reducing climate change or global warming, if you will. Um, the final thing is, what are we doing? The whole thing about thinking globally, acting locally. And the local for us is our little university on the slopes of Kalaipohaku in the middle of the Pacific. Now, what you see scrolling before you is pictures. I had asked you at the very beginning of the semester to take a picture of the solar farm that's up on the top above Kiefer. One of the things you'll notice is that there was no picture, or there is no picture of that solar farm in this series of pictures that are flashing before you. And that's because that was a continuation of this project. It started first on the rooftops, and then it moved on after that to uh, the solar farm itself that's up on the top of the hill. And that was because there was another planned use for the site that fell through. And then, fortunately for us, in a way, it gave rise to the development of that solar farm that is up there as well. So, this is, again, some of the things that we have been doing as a school on our own, trying to act locally. So we are trying to do our part in many ways. Um, One of the other things, the last thing I did want to mention, and thank you so many of you for being on this because this allows me to do two things at once. I'll go run back into listen to the next presentation and see how it's going, and also For those of you who are in the environmental economics class, Guanlin Gao, Professor Gao is with us here at this session, and we will be making a presentation tomorrow on talking about difficult subjects, a little bit different from what it is that we do in our classes as far as environmental studies is concerned, but something that we are trying to get a feel for as well. Um, I don't see it. Oh well. Um, the one thing I wanted to put up was the intro to next week. And the intro to next week basically was going to be limited to we'll be talking about for the next couple of weeks, the last 2 weeks of the semester, uh, the idea of the National Environmental Protection Act. This was the one of the first major pieces of federal legislation that went directly towards environmental protection. As you know, there is a lot that is being dictated at the federal level, and it varies in intensity and in intentionality depending on the administration that happens to be in charge. But the National Environmental Protection Act is still good law. It still exists, and it still is responsible for things like the Endangered Species Act. The thing that is different, though, is the rate of implementation and adoption of protection of different species as they become more and more endangered. So that is one thing that we see that is based on the political whims and wills of whoever happens to be in power at the time. Remember again that you are in the minority really when it comes to the protection of the environment. Everybody says that they're for it, but really when it comes down to it, very few people are actually willing to step up and speak on behalf of the environment. And these laws can only do so much. And what you find is that it's one law. And if you take a look at all of the different laws that regulate business and function for the enhancement of business, you'll see that there is a great imbalance as far as what is perceived legally to be more important. Uh, what that means, of course, is you guys just have to fight that much harder. So, with that, thanks. It's been a short 15 minutes, but that's the only time I had on the break. I would have stayed longer out if I wasn't so obvious because I dressed at this conference for whatever reason exactly like I dressed to teach class at Chaminade. Somebody told me when I asked them, "What am I supposed to? What's the dress code?" And they said, "Wear what you would wear to school to teach." And I'm going like, "Okay." I didn't explain to them any further as to how I look compared to how everybody else in the room looks. They're all in coat and tie, so or in more professional dress, business suits, and things of that nature. So anyway, I'm very obvious by not being there because of the way I look, and that's okay. I think I like that. But thanks for tuning in, and I will see you on Wednesday. Monday, I'm flying back, so I won't be able to do anything online, nor will I be able, to, obviously, to do anything in person. Miami is 5,000-mile jaunt, and it's going to take me all of Monday to get back. So Monday there'll be no class, and there'll be no class, no Zoom session. So take a look starting next week at the last chapter in the textbook, which is on the National Environmental Protection Act, or NEPA. I will try to find information between now and Wednesday to share with you, not just on NEPA, but on the Little National Environmental Protection Act, or HEPA, the Hawaii Environmental Protection Act. As you know, since Hawaii is the extinction capital, we would be remiss as a society in Hawaii if we were not to enact our own law that is a little bit more rigorous and a little bit more uh,
wide-reaching than just the national law. So we'll talk about that, and I'll get you some information on that because that's not in the book. So as I normally do, I try to find stuff that's outside of the book because that's what I bring. You can always just bring the book, and we'll just leave it at that. Anyway, I will push the end the meeting for all button, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. Thanks a lot.